Hi everybody, my name is Julian Thomas and I'm an assistant professor in East Asian languages and civilizations at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm making this video from my hotel room in Seattle where I'm currently attending the Association for Asian Studies annual meeting. And I wanted to make this very brief video to introduce my latest publication that just came out today called Varieties of Religious Freedom in Japanese Buddhist Responses to the 1899 Religions Bill. Now, the title of the article is a bit of a mouthful, but basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at a few different ways that Japanese Buddhists understood religious freedom at a very contentious point in Japanese legal history. Now, those of you who are familiar with Japanese history, especially Japan's modern history, might be a little bit perplexed by this idea about religious freedom at this time. The sort of received narrative is that Japan completely lacked religious freedom up until the US and its allies liberated Japan in 1945. But my research in the book that I'm working on suggests that this narrative is almost entirely false. It turns out that Japan had a very robust language about religious freedom from the time that its constitution, its first modern constitution, was promulgated in 1889. The case that I look at is not a legal case, excuse me, but the moment that I look at is about a decade after the promulgation of the Constitution, when the Japanese government attempted to provide some restrictions on the rules regulating the incorporation of religions and who could be a priest and so on. When that bill was put forward in the House of Peers, there was a vehement response among some legislators in the Buddhist press and so forth. The article that's just come out looks at three different Buddhist understandings of religious freedom that were operative at this time. On the one hand, we have some Buddhists that actually sided with the state and thought that it was a really good idea to restrict religious freedom, and they had a couple of different reasons for doing so. But my article touches on that only briefly and focuses really more on two other non-statist views of religious freedom. One, which was extremely popular among Buddhists at this time, was a corporatist view, and that was the idea that religious freedom should be a customary right, it should be based on precedent, and it should be granted basically only to Buddhists because they were the only religion that had been in Japan for a very long time. The other was what I call in the article a liberal latitudinarian view. Again, a mouthful, but basically this is the idea that of taking a laissez-faire approach to religions and letting them do as they please. So I trace a few different attitudes towards religious freedom right at the turn of the 20th century as a way of highlighting two things. One, I want to make a broad theoretical claim about religious freedom, pointing out, and I think contemporary America illustrates this quite well, that religious freedom is never one thing in any given time or place. Second, my article is intended to write against the grain of some of the scholarship on so-called state Shinto, because one striking thing about the sources that I'm looking at is that virtually none of the Buddhists who are writing at the turn of the 20th century refer to Shinto at all. That is, when they're talking about religion-state relations, they don't care about Shinto. They don't mention it. They don't assume that it's Japan's national religion. And I think that this is really important for understanding the history of this period, and especially for really counteracting what is still a prevailing narrative that Shinto was Japan's national religion from the years 1868 to 1945. It's simply not true. And so my article goes some way towards doing that. My book will do more, so stay tuned and I'll provide more when I can. For now, I hope that you will look at the article. It's in the Asian Journal of Law and Society, Volume 3, Issue 1. That's dated May 2016, but it just came out online today, March 31st. And if you can't find an article, if you don't have access, drop me an email and I'll be happy to share a copy with you. All right, thanks for reading, as always, and I look forward to getting your feedback.